Welcome to yet another inspiring episode of Spark Igniting Minds. Today we are privileged to have with us visionary leader, a dedicated public servant and an inspiration to many. Mr. Jairaj held numerous high-ranking positions including the Principal Secretary to the Chief Minister of Karnataka, Managing Director of Karnataka Power Corporation and Commissioner of Bangalore City Corporation BBMP. One of his landmark achievements was leading the establishment of BIAL, Bangalore International Airport, India's first greenfield airport, under a public-private partnership which has since become a vital gateway for global connectivity. His leadership also extended into the energy sector, where his policies and initiatives laid the foundation for sustainable development in Karnataka. In addition to his public sector accomplishments, Mr. Jairaj has shared his expertise globally through the World Bank, where he focused on governance in countries like Nigeria and Ghana. His passion for making a difference continues as he serves as an independent director for several major companies and is actively involved in higher education and mentoring startups too. Today, let us delve into the experiences and insights of this IAS officer who has made a significant influence on the society. Namaskara Jairaj sir. It's truly an honor to welcome you to our YouTube channel Spark Igniting Minds athwa Belakina Kidi anta. This channel explores the insights and experiences of great contributors, great minds and people who have got passion for their work. You have been a great contributor to public governance and infrastructure development. You have also been a leader and have taken up leadership roles in many of the projects, and it is a great pleasure to welcome you again to our Spark Igniting Minds channel.
Thank you very much, Captain Sahana. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Yeah.
And also to interact with you in order to ignite young minds in our country. Okay. Thank you for inviting me.
Sir, your career has been a testament for perseverance and dedication. So, could you share with us, what inspired you to pursue the IAS career? And also, how did you prepare for such a challenging task?
So, it's very interesting, when I reflect on why I joined the IAS. Actually, this was a childhood ambition of mine, because I come from a middle class family of professionals. The love for the IAS was instilled in me by my grandfather,
right, sir.
C.R. Krishna Rao, who was a retired income tax officer. And he used to tell me that, if you have to make contribution in India, the IAS is the career. But after that, what happened was, to cut a long story short, I went to the Delhi School of Economics for my MA.
Right, sir.
And then I went to the United States of America to study at Princeton. And I kind of was not that enthused about the IAS. I was looking at the West and so on.
Right.
But coincidentally, I met a Pakistani gentleman in Princeton. He was in the civil service of Pakistan. And he took a liking to me because there were very few international students on campus in those days.
Right.
And he kind of, he was elder to me, and so he began to interact with me and so on. And then he put me through a reading of various books and articles on the Indian civil service.
Right.
Like, James Mason and others. And that really persuaded me to think of a career in the IAS.
Okay.
And that's how I,
That's
started.
very interesting. Yeah. A Pakistani person inspiring you to become an Indian administrative service officer is something very different, I can say. So, coming from an academic background of economics, so why did you choose public service over other career opportunities?
So, in those days, Captain, the number of other opportunities were also limited.
Right.
I was not interested in becoming a doctor, much to my mother's chagrin, because she was a very famous doctor. I was not interested in becoming an engineer. Certainly, I didn't have the wherewithal to become an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So, in a way, the IAS or public service was about the default option, so to speak, for me.
And your father, sir? Yeah.
My father was a doctor also.
Father was also a doctor. You come from a doctor background.
Both of them were doctors. Both of them were in government service.
Okay. And during your early days, what were your challenges as an IAS officer? Yes.
So, I had many challenges actually.
Yes.
One was to get to know the environment. However much I had association with my state, etc., I didn't really know much about it. I was studying in Delhi and USA. And so getting into the groove, so to speak, especially learning Kannada again, and then interacting.
So you had forgotten Kannada?
Forgotten means, my Kannada was very colloquial Kannada.
Right.
I had to get into the official Kannada. And then also understanding the environment, seeing what people are and what their aspirations are. And then, very important challenge was looking at the structure of government.
Okay.
Right from the lowest level all the way to the top.
Right.
The Panchayat, the Taluka Development Board, as it then was, the district administration. And then, the state administration. So all that orientation took time. And then thirdly, my own ability to manage the environment. See, whatever we may say about our training in the IAS, etc., finally you bite the bullet only when you are in the field.
Right.
So how do you get on with people who are 20 years older than you?
Okay.
How do you lead a group of people? How do you enthuse others? Those are all situations that really you have to develop.
Okay.
And understanding.
And the career is very interesting, I can say, learning all that
and also
inspiring people is something.
Interacting with public people, those who are elected.
Yes.
How do you understand them? How do you tell them that you can accomplish things up to a point? Those are also important challenges that not only I but most IAS officers have overcome in their careers.
And you have held multiple leadership roles. And what are the key principles to become an effective leader in the public sector, particularly in a role like Commissioner of Bangalore City Corporation? What were your challenges there, sir?
So, over a period of time, I have developed a kind of template on what leadership can be in the public domain. And one of the key components of that is that wherever you are, you must master your job.
Okay.
You must master it in the sense that you must know everything about it.
Okay.
That is possible, which is difficult to actually implement, but you have to do it so that others can't hold you responsible for what you don't know.
Okay.
And only if you have that mastery will you be able to contribute, number one. Number two, you must also understand the organization in which you are. And in the government space, organizations can be very different. For instance, if I am the deputy commissioner of a district, that's a different kind of organization than if I am managing director of Karnataka Power Corporation.
Okay.
Or if I am commissioner of commercial taxes, or as you say, BBMP commissioner. So the organizations may all be in the public domain, but they have a different ethos, they have different resources, they have different arrangements. So understanding that is also very important. And thirdly, quickly coming to terms with your responsibility in terms of identifying what your priorities are, what the gaps are, how to overcome them. That is also a leadership requirement. And finally, cutting a long story short again, understanding and working with the authorizing environment, the politicians, your political bosses, your peers, the resources that are with you for your work, So putting all that together, converging all that, that is what leadership was to me. And I try to do it, sometimes very well, sometimes not that well.
Okay.
But that was the endeavor.
Okay. So working under politicians will be a different aspect altogether, like interacting with the public also. Correct. So all those skills you may have to develop being in that, understanding the culture of that organization.
I was also lucky, Sahana, because I must say, that my 35 years, I had exceptional politicians that I was able to work for.
Okay.
Beginning as an assistant.
Can you name a few of them? Yes.
S.M. Krishna,
okay.
Ram Krishna Hegde,
right.
Veerappa Moili,
okay.
Mr. Kumar Swamy.
You have been the Chief Secretary to the Chief Ministers.
I have been Principal Secretary to the Chief Minister. I have been Additional Chief Secretary. And then going back at the district level, people like Y.K. Ramaya, Uchmasti Gowda. I mean, I have really fantastic people I have worked for, and people who have inspired me, motivated me. I can't think of any unpleasant experience I have had.
Okay.
I mean, there have been people who have disagreed with me, maybe they didn't think highly of me, but I have never really had any discomfiture of the kind. And even in the BBMP, for instance, which is a different ball game altogether, I have really benefited from interacting with people like Mr. Somana, Ramling Reddy, Mr. Ashok, Suresh Kumarji, Yediyurappa. So many people, and I think of them very warmly because Virendra Patil, Transport Commissioner, and he was Chief Minister. So
that's wonderful, sir. You have been gelling with all of them. And association with all those political
reason
leaders.
For that, Sahana, is because I remember when I first joined the IAS, I met a very senior IAS officer called K.R. Ramchandran, who was a mentor of mine. He gave me a maxim to follow. He said, in whatever you do, always use your discretion in the public interest.
Okay.
Use your discretion. Never use your discretion for any private matter.
Correct.
So this use of discretion is very important for an IAS officer, because although there are the laws and there are the regulations, there is a grey area between them.
Yes.
Where your discretion is called into question.
Correct.
So if you keep this yardstick in mind, that when it concerns the people, the community, etc., the state, and if you use that discretion, nobody is going to fault you. Or even if they fault you, you can explain. But helping somebody at the expense of other things, that can get you into trouble. I have followed that.
Yeah, that's a wonderful maxim that you have learned. Because sometimes you will have to use your discretion, though there are rules, regulations, so many other things. Energy and sustainability, like as Principal Secretary of Energy, you had taken efforts, you had led, and you must have faced a lot of energy challenges also. Like, how do you view the future of renewable energy for the country? And what policies do you think are crucial for making energy sustainable?
When I look back, Captain, I'm astonished to see the growth of renewable energy. In 1995 or 96, we started the first renewable energy project in Karnataka in a place called Kappadgudda, where I think we put up 4 megawatt wind project. When J.H. Patel was our Honorable Chief Minister. Compared to them, now 28 years later, wind is still there, but solar is so much important. The solar also, in 2008, 10, when I was Energy Secretary, it started in a small way. And the Government of India's ambitious program was 2000 megawatts of solar under the Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission. Today, I read that 330,000 megawatts of solar capacity has been installed in India. And India has the highest rate of solar diffusion in the world, and almost 300 days of solar you can have because of the rainfall patterns. So it is really fantastic And again, to give you another example, in 2010, I think, we brought out the first renewable energy policy for Karnataka when Mr. Yadurappa was our CM and Mr. Ishwarappa was our Honorable Energy Minister. I had worked on it, I had gone to the institute in Pune and we had got a draft together and the cabinet passed it.
Okay.
Of course, that is outdated now because that was focusing mainly on wind. Today, solar, biomass, energy from the seas, etc., thermal energy, so much has changed that it is quite amazing.
Yes. In a very short period, when were you, sir?
I'm talking in 20 years it's
20
happened.
years
20 years all this has happened.
Yes. Yeah. And your contribution, you spearheaded the Bangalore International Airport, the first in India, I can say.
Right.
So what were the challenges and what were the leadership strategies that you adopted there? And it was a great success also. So
I was very fortunate to be associated with the airport, new airport. And it happened because the old airport in HAL, you might remember,
HAL I have seen,
had a capacity of only 3 million and it was defense land and they were not going to allow expansion.
Right.
So we had to move out and governments before them, led by Mr. Moily and others, had identified the land in North Bangalore.
Okay.
And the reason why that land was identified was because of availability of government land, 1,500 acres. So in 2000, when Mr. Krishna was our Honorable Chief Minister, he invited Narayan Murthy, N.R. Narayan Murthy, to be the chairman of this Bangalore International Airport, and Mr. Murthy was very kind to make me the CEO.
Okay.
I was also at that time managing director of KSRTC. I had a full-time job, but with that I did this. And the nodal agency was KSIIDC, and we must remember a person like Mr. Jairaj today. Jairaj was the executive director. He really was the person who gave a spirit and impetus to the airport. And also Mr. B.K. Das, who was our principal secretary, infrastructure, later Mr. Krishna Kumar. So what we did really was, we went through the entire process of selection, right from land acquisition to floating the bid, selection of partner, signing all the agreements relating to the airport called shareholders agreement, joint venture agreement, state support agreement. I won't go into all that because it's quite tedious. And then negotiating with the Germans. Siemens was the main consortium partner, Siemens, on how to put the airport into practice. And then after that, once everything was in place.
The planning also you will be involved in.
Yes, I was there for 5 years.
5 years you were there.
Almost 5 years. And then, what is called EPC bids, engineering, procurement and construction.
Right.
And so it was a fantastic thing because BIAL, that is Bangalore International Airport, was the first airport of its kind in India to be under public-private partnership. Because the private sector had 74% equity. Government has only 26% equity.
Okay.
And then later Hyderabad and Delhi and Mumbai and all that.
And they all followed such.
And see, we must give credit to our politicians.
Right.
Mr. Krishna and later Mr. Dharam Singh and Mr. Sindhia, all of them, Mr. Siddaramaiah, all of them were responsible for continuation of the project. It is something fantastic.
Fantastic, and it is such a beautiful airport now. And after that, Terminal 2 also has come in.
Spectacular.
Yes, spectacular.
I'm so thrilled to see it.
Right.
Although my name is not written anywhere, nor Narayan Murthy's name, but it is written here. So that is the great thrill and challenge.
Correct.
Of the public domain.
So even in the infrastructure development, it is a driver for economic growth, they say. And what were the lessons learned for this huge, when you have done all this huge infrastructure development? And what advice would you offer the emerging economists who would like to take up such a huge development?
So in infrastructure, there are 2 or 3 key requirements. One is, that government must have a partnership with the private sector. It is difficult for government to execute the infrastructure by itself. Maybe in defense or maybe in some select areas, that may be. But otherwise, in the normal run of economic infrastructure,
whenever there is a civil associated, I think they have to go with private sectors.
You have to involve the private sector. As has been done, you take the highways, you take the airports, you take the ports, you take all those things. Now private sector involvement is there. But it is very important that the roles and responsibilities of the private and public sector should be well defined. Otherwise, if there is overlap, if there is confusion, then one leads to another and it will be delay and other issues will develop. And finally, execution must be done on time. See, one of the things about BIAL was it was completed on time with a little delay, of course, because it's nature of the project. But the moment you execute a project on time, an infrastructure project.
Like metro, they have been delaying for such a long time. That's what I think.
But metro, there are other issues, For instance, people must understand that land acquisition is a major issue. I've been involved with metro in the beginning when I was in the government. And the one major issue was, should you go above the ground or below the ground? And why we decided most of it to go above the ground, the government decided, was because it is 1/5 of what it would cost going underground.
Because you have to tunnel
and also all that other thing. It's so expensive and displacement. Above the ground, the problem was land acquisition. So India is not like China, In China, the public authorities just draw the line and then they get the land. Of course, they may pay compensation. In India, people can contest, resist it, go to the court, get a stay, and they can thwart the project for many years. So anyway, coming back, execution of projects on time is a very key issue.
Very important.
Now, in the context of Bangalore, where there's so much of complaint about the roads, and rightly so, not only execution is important, but execution in terms of quality and specification. So, when I came to the BMP for the first time, because I realized that there was a lack of engineering capacity in BMP, the Chief Minister, Mr. Krishna, was kind enough to post 30 engineers from Karnataka Power Corporation. I had handpicked them because I was in KPCL for 5 years. And I brought them to BMP and I made them in charge of divisions. I made them in charge of major works, including at the level of chief engineer. And that's why
from power you brought them
power
to
I brought them here, much against, I think, perhaps the opinion of some people. And having done that, they really lifted the standards in terms of specifications, in terms of execution and so on. So that kind of good engineering input is required, and finally there is no escape from proper working, execution of projects, having good quality work being done.
That's what if you would have executed the roads, the road planning especially. I mean, water gets found on the roads and it's so difficult for the public. So that is very important.
When I was commissioner, the late KC Reddy, who was also an engineer extraordinary, would always tell me, if you put up a road, make sure that the drainage is good on the road.
Should be.
On both the sides, you must have proper drainage. The gradient must be good. Don't put up a road without drainage. So you see most, even if you go around, you see these roads, they may or may not have drainage. But there's also another issue. People must also learn to respect and use public property properly. Because even when there are drains, even when there are all these vents, they'll throw plastic there. They'll throw garbage. They'll dump something there and they'll get clogged. So, this is a never-ending problem.
The civilians also should protect our property.
People blame the system all the time. They abuse the BBMP. But at the same time, they may not honor all their obligations as a citizen.
They also have a lot of
responsibility. Somewhere along the line, that is important. So there must be partnership again between civic bodies and the public.
And your public policy and advisory role. As a public policy advisor and mentor for startups, identify certain significant areas where policy intervention is a must.
Right.
So, in startups and also in innovation in India, in which areas do you do this public intervention?
So I've been involved in the startups thanks to BCIC, which is our main body in terms of commerce and industry. And they have a startup wing, and when Ravindran was president, he was kind enough to invite me to head their startup and also the jury chair. And that's when I got to look at startups, and Bangalore ecosystem is so fantastic. Of course, I don't claim to know much because I'm not that clued in on technology and so on. But even otherwise, I have met several young founders, and I am so impressed with them because once they come out of college, they want to do something with their own hands.
Yes.
They have their own ideas, and usually 2 or 3 guys will form into a group, and then there is a painful period in which they have to grow.
Lot of risk is involved.
Financing is also an issue, and then getting finances from other bodies, and then growing it, scale, market, then intra-organizational issues, all that. So I look at those aspects of startups, including regulatory matters in startups. But now Bangalore is such a fantastic ecosystem for startups.
Yes, the ecosystem.
The old problems are not there, and you can, if you have a great idea, they'll help you to execute it. I'm reading that Bangalore has the largest number of startups in India, and among them, those who are successful is also very high compared to the other states.
Especially Bangalore, like maybe Flipkart or something which started in a very small way. The way they have grown up is amazing. I can
Absolutely.
say. Yes. Like global experience in working with the World Bank on governance and also budgeting for countries like Nigeria, Ethiopia and Ghana. So what parallels can you draw between them and India?
So the way it happened was, I always wanted to work in the World Bank. In fact, when I was in Princeton, I almost toyed with the idea of joining the World Bank after my MPA, but then I came back to India and then IAS and all that. So after some years in the IAS, I applied to the bank, and they were kind enough to take me in international selection. So I was in the public sector management group, looking at budgeting and finance, based in Washington DC. But my area of operation was Africa. English-speaking Africa, countries that you mentioned, Ghana, Ethiopia, Nigeria. And there, I would go regularly from Washington DC, look at the local governments, look at the federal governments, and look at issues bearing on budgeting, on civil service training, capacity building, etc., etc. And one of the astonishing things is that, unfortunately, because of their military rule and other things, their administrative system has been totally dismantled. And there, India scores a great victory because many people complain, what is the IAS, it is stifling everybody. Actually, they should go to Africa and see what kind of anarchy and chaos there is in these countries because they lack an administrative system. We have a very
good administrative system.
A robust administrative system.
Yes.
People are selected. Even today, the selection is fair. They are trained. Not only the IAS, the IPS, the civil other services. They are all trained. There is a certain ethic that they imbibe. Then they are given various postings, etc., etc. Of course, there is the bureaucracy, which is a compelling factor to look at. But they are doing it. Whereas in Africa, because of all this, there was no system at all. And so they had to create a system.
Do they have something?
Now they are. When I was there, they creating a system.
You created that?
No, I didn't create it. The politicians did it. They were bringing something into effect, but you could make out that there is very limited system.
They have to emulate India, I think.
Their technical capacity is also limited. For instance, I'll give you an example. In Ethiopia, at one point in time, the government had decided to eliminate all intellectuals and technical people.
What?
That was their philosophy.
Intellectual people,
Yaru
they wanted to
Beda,
eliminate.
they just finished them off. It was called the period of Red Terror. So the upshot was dentists in Washington DC, then in the entire Ethiopia. And you couldn't get electricians, you couldn't get plumbers, you couldn't get technically.
Even today, I think a lot of them migrate to US.
Yeah, now it may have been improved because technical education may have happened, universities may have come up. So Africa was starting from very low levels, at least East Africa, the ones that I looked at. And for them to come up with their population and with all their problems, poverty, was a very terrific thing I saw.
I had a person working for me from Nigeria. We together wrote a book called Dayananda, a Nigerian. Yes. So he was telling me the tribals there.
Oh, terrible.
And I don't know, he was killed also by his own friend, 24-year-old boy, just because he was, yes.
So, when I went to Nigeria,
yes,
the World Bank would say after 6 o'clock in the evening, don't go out on the road.
Yes.
You know why? Because there were no street lights in Abuja.
Okay.
Abuja is the capital, not Lagos. Don't go out on the road.
Don't go after 6.
After 6, after dark.
Yeah.
Because you can get waylaid and you can get hijacked. You can be killed for a petty amount.
Yeah, that's
so
what he
now
was
things
telling
may
me.
be improved.
Yes.
Now because I'm talking about 15 years ago, things may be far better. But it was a violent situation. It was also chaotic. And there was a lot of corruption in the system. And some of the poverty levels were also very high. So overall, I had a very dismal takeaway from my African experience.
Okay. So coming to your higher education involvement, you have been involved in many of the educational institutions, and what is your opinion on higher education? How is it evolving? Like how will be the future of with respect to the global context?
I'm very privileged to be involved in higher education because I never thought I will be.
Right.
As soon as I retired, more than 10 years ago, I got an invitation to serve on the BMS Trust and to also chair the BMS Institute of Technology, the Architecture School and the Law School. And I never realized what higher education, I've been a product of higher education, but I never realized what it was. And on the engineering side, today there is no getting away from the fact education will bring about the future of this country. No doubt about it, in any sense of the term. People, whatever, I'm not talking of engineering alone or medical, but even otherwise. Basic education is required for the people in order to realize their full potential. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And I think the expansion in higher education in India is quite remarkable. Especially to take Bangalore for instance. Once upon a time when I studied in Central College, Bangalore, there was only one university, that is Bangalore University, in the public domain. Now I think in Bangalore itself there are more than 30 universities.
No, all autonomous universities
private
have come up like Christ University,
Dayananda University and Ramaya, Christ, etc. And they are offering quality education. They are preparing their products for good opportunities here and elsewhere. And I think this expansion in education, not just engineering, also nursing, pharma,
so many careers, the careers
design,
are countless design, law.
All this is really going to bring about the new India of the 21st.
And all upcoming technological advancements also.
All machine
UI,
learning,
UX,
AI, everything. So I've been involved in on the management and on the organizing side of higher education. And I was associated with BMS for 6 years, and now I'm associated with Dayananda Sagar University under a very under a very far-sighted gentleman like Dr. Prem Sagar, a great, and his brother Dr. Hem Sagar. A great university has come up in South Bangalore, in near
Kanakpura Road. I've seen it is a huge campus, I can say.
It has 7 professional schools, medical, engineering, law, design, health sciences and so on. And now there are more than 10,000 students. Eventually, the aim is to go to 20,000.
Right.
So how do you build quality in that education? How do you identify good faculty? How do you provide the best of education to students? How do you enhance student experience? How do you make the university achieve benchmarks in terms of academic quality and otherwise? Those are really the challenges which are driving higher education. And not only what we are doing, even other universities have done very well.
And I think you're also doing that cultural exchange, going to the other countries and learning from them.
They are coming to us now.
And they are coming to us.
And other fantastic universities like Ashoka University, Jindal Global, Ahmedabad University. So I think
higher education has taken a lot of impetus, I can say. And then
the question is, there must be, I think a great challenge, you asked about challenge, the great challenge is on the public side, primary and secondary education in the space given by the government, that has to improve.
Yes, sir.
Even
today, a lot of dropouts are there, especially in the rural areas. Still, that is going on. I don't know, that has
gross enrollment ratio is low. And then the attainment of what do they learn in school. In private schools, they must be learning a lot because good education. What about public schools? How do we improve public schooling? Because that's where majority of the children in the rural areas go to, right?
Yes, sir.
So that is one great challenge in India. The other great challenge is the health system. See, so far as you and I are concerned, we go to the best hospitals in Bangalore, which is world class. We can access whatever we need. What about in rural areas? What about those who can't pay? Public health, it's still pretty bad, for a variety of reasons. How do we improve that? In India, those are the challenges.
The basic education has to be improved, and it should be in par with whatever the, all these private people are doing. Similar things have to be brought in the government or the government schools.
And in agriculture, to improve productivity so that the farmer can have more income and he or she can do far better. Those are the key challenges in India. I was reading an article, Captain, which said, all things going well, if we have purposeful and resolute government, by 2047, India can be a fully developed country. It can overtake even China. So think about it, in our own lifetime.
It's been growing, sir. We have seen the growth in India.
To see India to become a developed country, largely free of poverty, that is something.
It was a vision which was dreamed long back.
Mind-boggling.
Yes.
Mind-boggling.
Yes.
Therefore, I'm very proud to be in India. I'm glad I came back to India when I did. No regrets.
As a former president of the All India Management Institutes, how does management contribute to the leaders of today, sir?
So when I joined the IAS, many people thought that there was some bifurcation between administration and management. And I never believed in that, and all my studies abroad, etc., reinforced the belief that if you have to be good in the administration, you must be a good manager. So early on, I joined the management movement, BMA, Bangalore Management Association, and through BMA I became president of the AIMA, All India Management Association. And my emphasis in IMA was to say that corporate management must be of the high order, governance and all that. Equally, in the public domain, no matter where you are, whether you are running a department or a company or whatever, management principles apply with the same fervor. So I have kind of emphasized that, and I have tried to put it into practice. I have been a member of the boards of IIM, Bangalore and Kashipur and elsewhere. And I think that today, there is a great realization that even those who work...
When I was studying, we always used to differentiate the difference between a manager and a leader.
See?
So these managers have to become leaders.
They have to be leaders. So I'm trying to do this. And I think it applies to all sectors, even the not-for-profit sector.
Yes.
NGO.
NGOs also.
And there you require good managers, you require to lead the organization, you require to achieve results. So that's what it is today.
Correct, sir. Like mentoring startups also, you have mentored a lot of startups, and what challenges do you see in today's startups? I think you have already covered a bit. Also the challenges to achieve a sustainable growth.
So in startups the main challenges I see from what I am experiencing my friends is one is that the big idea that they start with, somewhere along the way they kind of peter out, either because of conflict or some intra-personal issues. That is one major issue I see. Second, I see that growing the organization to scale, that is also a problem. It's not so easy to grow. Not everybody can be Flipkart.
There are so many people struggling in their startups for years.
Failure rate is very high. Thirdly, getting finance. Earlier that was a major problem, now not so much.
Now I think government has been
the private sector, venture capital, you got a lot of finance. So these are the three challenges now, but still I think the number of successes can also be quite a lot. And see, I talk to my young students in the engineering colleges, etc. They don't want to work for Philips or Siemens or
they want to do
they want to do on their own now.
On their own. Yes, everybody has an entrepreneur spirit.
They've got the josh to do things on their own.
And, yes.
So it is something fantastic.
Correct.
And I think the ecosystem that is there, the government framework that has been put,
and actually our government, Startup India, Stand Up India, to really stand up.
Digital Karnataka, all that is fantastic.
Fantastic.
I hope it works.
Yes. Then advice to the young leaders, as someone who has held so many positions, high positions in different sectors, like you will be the best person to advise. What advice would you give to young professionals?
So one is, my advice to the young professionals is, you must do three things, madam. One, you must manage yourself well.
Correct.
Managing yourself well means you must have emotional intelligence, you must have IQ, and you must also have a personal ethic that emphasizes hard work, putting everything into whatever you want to do, and also getting on with people, because you can't do things on your own.
You have to be a people's person.
That is one
yes.
First aspect.
Correct.
The second aspect is you must have technical capacity in whatever you're doing.
Right.
You must know what you're doing. As I said, you must master the environment. Without it, you cannot be a dilettante. You cannot expect to just do well because you can speak well, or because people think of you well. You have to contribute. You have to perform. You have to show that you can do it. And thirdly, you must have execution excellence. This is something I learned, from a great management person called Jack Welch, that you must be able to execute things well.
Okay.
Whether it's the airport, or whether it is a road, or whether it is a university, you must do things on time.
Unless you execute, plan remains a plan.
Plan remains a plan, and you have to do well. And finally, you must have a great sense of ethics, integrity.
Yes.
You must draw the line as to what you will do and not do. And that ethics is something personal in everybody. But unless you have some lodestar to guide you, you will become adrift. So when you put all these four together, everybody can succeed in today's India, in my opinion.
Correct.
Of course, success can be measured in different ways, not by bank balance alone, or not by equity alone, but other things. Sense of personal satisfaction.
Personal satisfaction is the most important. Yes, self-esteem.
Sense of esteem. So many things are there in success, and
and for everybody, success is different.
Correct.
For some, it is acquiring wealth. For some, it may be the growth of the personality. For some, it may be evolving, and then
social relations,
maybe. So it is different.
Absolutely, you said it.
Yes, and I'm so grateful today.
So am I. I'm very happy to meet you.
And the way you have shared your insights and experiences.
I wish your channel all the best.
Yes, sir.
And finally, I'd like to say one more thing for leaders,
Yeah.
I have seen this in some people, is that those who succeed in life in whatever way they want, they must in turn give back to the community.
Yes.
Not enough
definitely.
to keep it to yourself.
Yes.
So I'm very proud that our leaders today have such philanthropic objectives like Azim Premji, or Nandan and Rohini, Narayan Murthy and Sudha, and so many others, They are giving back to society.
They are giving back.
And in my own humble way, I have also given back. I am the president of an association for mentally challenged.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I want to ask you about that.
And
so
I also am the
what
president.
Is your experience there, sir? And
fantastic experience.
Yes.
Because you see this, I've been associated with this institution for the past 20 years.
Okay.
And I've been president for about 10 years. Now this is next to NIMHANS. And there are these intellectually challenged children who come there, 130, 140. It's a lifelong disability.
Correct.
Okay, it's not as though they can be cured. So you give them some education and training. But you feel very bad because their parents will say, I look after them as long as I am alive. What happens to them after I go? And 2% of India's population is intellectually challenged.
2%?
2%.
It's a very large
number.
Large number, yes.
Yeah, so I give my administrative inputs. I've assembled a very good board of people, etc. And we're trying to advance that. Trying to create a safe and happy environment for those people. I'm also associated with a hospital started by Pejawar Swamiji in Jayanagar and now Marathalli.
Krishna Sevashram.
It's affordable care, that is very important
Yeah, charitable
today.
hospital, and I think people go there.
People go there. We have 100 beds there, and in the new hospital, 150 beds. I am the working president. I give my time voluntarily, and we are trying
that must be giving you a lot of satisfaction, being without special challenge.
Trying to improve the standards in the hospital, trying to ensure that ordinary people are not shut out from the health system because they don't have money. That's a challenge.
That's a challenge.
Because you have to find the resources for that. So I'm doing it in a modest way, but my suggestion is that everybody should contribute to society.
Correct.
In my opinion, because we have got enough from society, we need to give back.
No, all those who have got so much from the society should really think of the poor and also the...
Correct.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir, for those insights, experiences. It was a wonderful interaction with you.
Thank you.
And
all
the best.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Wish your channel all success.
Thank you.